No more fun and games, eh, Mr. Warren?
Sorry.
Mute. Mute.
Okay. Good afternoon, commission members, and welcome to the inaugural meeting of the truly inaugural meeting of the Comox Valley Recreation Commission. My name is James Warren, and as the corporate legislative officer, I will call this inaugural meeting to order. As this meeting gets underway, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation. The first order of business at inaugural meetings is to conduct the election of the chair and vice chair for the Comox Valley Recreation Commission. And I do have a script in front of me. However, I do know that most of the directors have sat through a number of elections, and so I don't need to conduct the or go through the script necessarily unless there's any questions on this. I'll be calling for nominations for position of chair and vice chair separately, and then conducting elections if need be. Are there any questions before we get underway? I see Director Grieve and I imagine Director Hamir both have their hands up. Are those questions on process? Director Grieve?
No, I'm just waiting to nominate somebody.
Okay, thank you. And Director Hamir, is that a question on process, or are you also waiting for nominations?
That was nomination. Yeah, I'm getting in the queue.
Great. Then I think I'll just open the floor to nominations for position of chair of the Comox Valley Recreation Commission for 2021. Director Grieve.
I'd like to nominate Director Arbor.
All right, thank you. I'll call a second time for any further nominations for the position of chair. And call a third and final time for any nominations for position of chair. Seeing none, Director Arbor, do you allow your name to stand as chair of the Recreation Commission? Yes. Good. Then I'm pleased to announce that Director Arbor, you are acclaimed as the chair of the Comox Valley Recreation Commission for 2021. And I will open the floor now for nominations for the position of vice chair of the Recreation Commission. Director Arbor.
Thanks. I'd like to nominate Director Swift as vice chair.
Director Swift. All right. I'll call a second time for any nominations for vice chair. And I'll call a third and final time for any nominations for vice chair. Seeing no further nominations, Director Swift, do you allow your name to stand for the nomination?
I will.
Very good, thank you. Then I am pleased to announce that you are acclaimed as the vice chair for the Recreation Commission for 2021. And with that, we'll take a moment and turn the floor over to Director Arbor for conducting the meeting.
Great. Well, welcome to the very first meeting ever of the Comox Valley Recreation Commission with our brand new name and expanded service, including now the exhibition grounds under the commission. I'd like to acknowledge that we're conducting our business in the traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, who are also an important partner of us on many endeavors, including recreation. We do not have a delegation today. For the management report, maybe I'll turn it over to staff to just give a general update as to where we're at.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commissioners. If you have any questions on any of the items on the management report, we can address those. But first, I would like Jennifer Sabin, Senior Manager, just to give you a little bit of an update with respect to where we are at with our programs and operations in the COVID lens.
Through the chair, thank you everybody for having me here today. Currently with our programs and services for the Comox Valley, we still have 2 sheets of ice going. We are roughly 60% and 50% booked on the ice, on both sheets of ice. And the Sports Center pool is running with what I'll tell you out of 100% of programming types. we have about 60% of the various programming that we'd normally offer between two facilities put into the one pool facility, with lower numbers and ensuring that we have all our physical distancing, both poolside and ice side. In respects to things going on inside the building for projects, we do have the Glacier Kings dressing room that we're moving forwards with. We're in the permitting process, the building permitting process right now. There's a few studies and reports that needed to be completed, such as asbestos. While we do have a report from 2010 and 2013, we're in 2021, so those become a little bit outdated. So a little bit of catch-up work to do on that. We have a concession renovation that's also happening inside the sports center, and we're looking forward to offering this spring some healthy initiative programming, as well as the various outdoor programming and indoor programming. So we're quite excited to get that concession off and rolling. And outside of that, we're spending a lot of time working with all of our various users and user groups and lease agreement renters, and trying to help everybody get through our current state of the pandemic. We have an RFP for the ice resurfacer that will probably hit the ground running tomorrow on the bidding site, on the RFP site for the regional district. And we have a pool basin study recently completed. We'll talk about that here. And the one other piece is we have, that was all. That was all the updates.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the directors? I see Dr. Hillian has his hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I will move receipt while I have the floor, but I do have a question.
Thanks for moving receipt. Do we have a second? Thanks, Dr. Kettler.
Thanks. And I did notice in the staff report that the ice allocation issue is still in the works. And I wonder if the time it is taking is reflective of the some challenges with aspects of solving the problem, or if it's simply a function of staff capacity.
Through the chair, the ice allocation review was earmarked to begin this last December, so winter. And staff have just started the process in December, and we're moving forwards with it. We'll be doing an engagement process with all of our users that utilize our ice arenas. And it will take some time. It's getting people together over the Zoom. And it's also about researching what other facilities and locations are doing. We've received back from all of the facilities that reach out to their ice allocation policy, so we can start pulling that information together. And next steps are moving forwards with our user groups, communications with our user groups.
Thanks very much. Appreciate that update.
Yes, thank you. And over to Dr. Hamir.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, Jennifer. I don't know if you said that in your report regarding the electric ice surfacer. Was that the RFP that went out, or that was for something else?
Through the chair, that's the RFP that will be hitting the hot presses first thing tomorrow morning.
Oh, fantastic. Great. Thanks. Look forward to hearing that.
Director Morin.
Great, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I had a related question around the ice allocation. I wondered, due to COVID and the decreased utilization of the ice, if there were any changes in terms of the groups accessing ice, or maybe some groups not running their programs due to COVID. And a related question to that is, I was curious about the COVID regulations when it comes to hockey and ringette and sports that are, even though they're on the ice, that there is that close contact, because there have been some incidences of maybe not outbreaks, but cases with those kinds of teams. So I was just curious about what your feedback would be around that, the ice allocation and changes, and also the hockey and ringette contact sports and COVID precautions.
Through the chair, in respects to the ice allocation, this is probably the one whole time that any user group that is still able to carry on under the current guidelines, they would have ice available to them almost to their heart's content. So right now there wouldn't be an issue. Moving forwards in respects to the COVID and the groups that are on the ice, there's some very specific requirements right now for when you're on the ice. And it comes down to drills and skills, no scrimmaging, no games, minimum 3 meters apart. So as an example, I'll take perhaps minor hockey, where normally they might have 24 kids on a team. And those 24 kids would normally come from 5 till 6. Now 12 of them will come from 5 till 6 and 12 will come from 6 till 7. So they've had to divide up their groups, which obviously spreads out. And we have the ice time right now to be able to support that. And that provides them the opportunity to carry on underneath those guidelines. I believe Ringette, their governing body, has had them cancel their activity for now, and all adult organized sports is on suspension at this time. So that's opened up the ice a fair amount for other users that are still able to go under the current guidelines.
Great. Chair, may I have just another follow-up if there's no one in the queue, or you can come back to me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd had some feedback from some folks who felt that the kind of guidelines around COVID in the rec centers was inconsistent between Comox and our facilities in Courtenay. And, my understanding is that everyone's kind of following the same provincial guidelines. So I don't know if you're aware of that, or if there's any comment. I was going to ask the question at Courtenay as well, just to see, but there were some folks who said that, there were certain things they could do in one location and not another, and it was very confusing to them.
Through the chair, one piece that will make us just a little bit different than the other partnering facilities will be that we're pools and arenas. So there's some things that we certainly have to be a little bit tighter on, particularly as you enter the pool area and as you enter onto the ice, because of the type of activity that you will be doing. So while you're not an organized sport, you may be coming for, let's say, an aquasize class, but it's a low level of participation or of increasing a respiratory rate, where you may go to an aerobic class at one of the what I'll call the dry rec centers, Courtenay and Cumberland and Comox, and that aerobic class will be canceled because of the intensity. We've had some differing responses from the local health authority in respects to perhaps what our facility can do to what another facility can do. And that's been up and down the island as well. And part of that is just making sure that we educate and show properly in our safety plans how we're going to, do this program. So that will be part of if there's any discrepancies. We're not necessarily aware of any discrepancies at this time. And we do have a leadership table that works with all the partnering municipalities. Staff get together to discuss, masks as an example, at what point must you wear your mask? All the facilities are on the same wavelength with that. So I think staff would be interested to hear if there's a discrepancy, certainly from what we're doing in our facilities, and have that opportunity to maybe provide a response to that.
Right, thank you. And then perhaps there could be some joint communication go out, maybe from the 3 rec areas or something that makes some clarifications. I think one of the comments was around some of the circuit training in different locations was allowed, and instructors were doing adaptations, etc. And maybe that runs into contractors for those activities as well. I don't know, but thank you for the response, and maybe I'll send an email with some specific examples. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Director Murray, for raising those topics, and I encourage all directors and Trustee Howe to forward questions. I think the next 6 months, we're still going to see a lot of uncertainty around COVID policies. from hearing about completely packed days at Mount Washington to soccer having to shut down, we know that I think the general public really understands the intent, but the application sometimes is uneven across different areas. So that feedback is important for our staff to know and to coordinate with other, as you said, not 3, but I think 4 jurisdictions that are involved. So there being no other questions on receipt. Anybody opposed to receipt? They're seeing none. Thank you for the management report. And I will look for somebody to move receipt on our grant application proposal for the sports center.
Proceed.
Thank you, Dr. McCollum.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. Amir. And over to staff.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commissioners. And Jennifer Zabidin again will present this report and the proposed recommendation and answer any of your questions.
Through the chair. So staff are here today to provide the Comox Valley Recreation Commission with the opportunity to apply for the COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream for the Comox Valley Sports Center upgrades. This is quite a fairly quick application process. So we've hit 2021, so let's hit the ground running and let's try to get an application going forward. Because of the tight timeline and the shorter notice of this particular grant, staff are working on cinching down the costs and the work timeline for the work. Initially, when we put this report together, it was noted that, as an example, that fiber optics was a $150,000 project. It has now grown to a $300,000 project, but yet LED lights for Arena 1 and Arena 2 was listed at about $100,000 to $150,000, and it has shrunk down to a $70,000 project on the quoting that's come in. So staff continue to work on pulling those exact numbers in preparation for a potential application. Yeah, no worries. Thank you. So the proposed work scope will focus on, and it's a bit of a teamwork approach of the REC Commission strategic goals, and in particular the asset management and the board's strategic driver, fiscal responsibility and climate environmental stewardship. So anytime we flip out a piece of equipment, particularly in the mechanical, the refrigeration plant, it really hones in on climate and environmental stewardship. The REC department has been focusing on enhancing our asset management practices in recent years as a strategic priority. Our facilities are certainly, starting to age. Given the significant infrastructure assets invested by the Comox Valley Regional District to provide recreation services to the region, and the need to maximize available funding for maintaining and upgrading these key community facilities, which we have 3 of them that fall under this function: the Comox Valley Sports Center, the Aquatic Center, and down at the exhibition grounds, we have the curling rink. So a bit of a timeline. How did we get here today? So in the summer of 2020, upon the results of the Sports Center Pool Basin study, there was an estimate of $3.1 million of upgrades were identified to be required in the next 3 years to maintain the service life of this facility. So we've come to the idea that the Sports Center is 45, 46 years old. It's coming towards the end of its life. We need to start thinking about, we need to carry on thinking about what are we going to do with the pool facility piece. So not including the arenas, just the actual pool portion, as well as there's some other upgrades that staff are preparing that we would bring forth in our 5-year financial plan. And those being things like the LED lighting upgrades, parking lot repaving, and fiber optics installation, which that total package will come in at around $500,000 to $550,000. So that's an update from when we wrote this staff. And then the overall aquatic area will be approximately 3.6 to 3.7 million to get this work done. In November of 2020, staff had recommended only urgent repairs be undertaken in 2020 using capital reserve funds, as we had hoped to plan further work on the asset management strategy in 2021 and to complete the aquatic assessment with the City of Courtenay and get those big picture needs. However, this grant opportunity has come along, and it would be a shame to miss out on such an opportunity. We have an aging sports center, and having the opportunity to apply for this grant still provides us the opportunity to focus on the big picture needs with the aquatic center and the City of Courtenay, and knowing wholeheartedly that the sports center would then hopefully be well taken care of to meet the needs of things, people such as for rehab, the aging population. It sort of has a specific niche in comparison to the aquatic center, which is a all for one jump in that pool scenario. In December 1st, 2020, the provincial government announced the grant stream. So that brought us to December. And the sports center upgrades have been identified as well aligned for this new grant, with the application due on the 27th of January. When does this work need to be completed? By December 31st of 2021. So we're running up against a bit of a timeline. So if supported by the Recreation Commission, an application will be prepared and additional information on the project scope will be presented to the CVRD board at the January 26, 2021 meeting for endorsement. So again, why the sports center? We have a completed pool basin study. We have a really good idea of what that facility is going to need in the next 5 and 10 and beyond years. So we have an opportunity here. And I think the last thing that I'd like to say is that it's been really tough times with the pandemic to the community, to the organization, and to the facilities. So maybe here's that opportunity to turn a tough news story into a really good news story with, we can't necessarily provide you all these services right now, but what we can do while you're waiting to get back at our services is get that facility in tip-top shape for you, so that when you return, you know that facility is going to be there for you for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And we won't be coming back to say, hi, we'd like to apply for another grant. So let's look to reopen with a bang and get our services back up and running and get everybody back in our building. So on that note, I would be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Director Cole Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks so much, Jennifer, for putting together this this report. I think this is an excellent opportunity for us to, as you said, reopen with the sports center sort of better and in good shape going forward. One of the things that I thought was interesting is the seismic study and the work. I noted they were marked as upgrades. I'm just wondering if that seems to indicate to me there's something urgent that needs to be done. Just what knowledge we have of our sort of the status of the building in terms of its seismic soundness, and also what kind of standards were held to in terms of the upgrades that we're going to be undertaking.
Through the chair, staff are still working on sort of reviewing and pulling that information together. We have a previous seismic upgrade to that facility that was put in place, and I'm going to give you a rough year of 2010. So staff are looking to work with the contractors a little bit further to kind of really earmark the urgency behind that, and with the work that was done in the past, is this work required? So we're still looking to sort of nip tuck that one, and we're hopeful to have some answers here within the next 2 weeks prior to coming forth to the board.
Okay, thank you. I mean, seismic upgrading is a big piece for any building, so if we're able to make that part of the work that we do, I think that's time and money well spent. Great, thanks very much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Director McCollum.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jennifer, for the report. I certainly agree with you that these grant opportunities are providing us the opportunity for some good news after a lot of difficult times over the last few months. So it is nice to see these applications starting to roll forward. Being new to this commission, I don't have some of the background on what's outlined in the report. And if you wouldn't mind just explaining to me what the fiber optic upgrades are meant to address, and just maybe a little bit more background on that for me.
Through the chair, at this time, our understanding is that the fiber optics would connect the sports center to the aquatic center and then out to the for lack of a better word, the power tower. And the goal behind that is to be able to provide a better internet service for the community. So whether it's you're registering for a program at the front desk, whether you're a hockey team that's providing a hockey game and you're streaming the hockey game for the community, whether you're a swim club and you need to be able to live stream the results of the event, and in general, for anybody using the facility, whether you're a member of the public or whether you're a member of the staff and you need to use a computer just to improve the services that we have in-house at this time. We're fairly archaic we've had a lot of updates, but we're still fairly archaic with our internet. So in hopes to improve and provide a better service to everyone.
Great, thank you. And I do have a subsequent question, Chair, if I'm okay to have another.
Go ahead.
Just with regards to the mechanical and architectural items that are listed in the report, with these upgrades, should we be successful in moving ahead, how likely are we to see a lot of improvements in terms of energy use and just, reduce the energy demands of the operation as it exists right now?
Through the chair, I certainly I couldn't give you a specific number at this time, but there is a very good opportunity here to improve on what we're doing and how much we're spending for energy.
Jennifer, could you maybe explain some of the improvements they've done recently to better manage energy use of the facility? Because Commissioner McCollum may not be aware of the recent improvements.
Certainly. Through the chair, so within the last 3 years, we've done what we call a heat reclaim program. So the steam is captured that leaves the facility. It's captured back in and it goes back through and it's repurposed to provide heat to the pool. So that helps with the reduction of using the actual heaters that we have, which are a little bit on the older side. That's been a significant assistance to our costs. We've reduced our costs down from a 310,000 down to 125,000 over the last 2 years. So that's been a fantastic decrease. We've also replaced our condensers for Arena 1 and Arena 2, which that piece of equipment is the one that works to keep the ice in place to keep the facilities cold. So we've seen a reduction in costs with the new equipment. That was also part of the ammonia regulatory requirements, but it certainly has done an improvement on us. In the pool side, we've replaced the lighting to an LED. So we're seeing some significant savings there. And then as well as our heating and cooling system, we've been working on replacing and updating. And so we'll find some savings there as well once that's all in place. So we're trying as much as we possibly can that anytime we're switching out, I'll call it a mechanical system, that we're looking for the most energy efficient way to possibly do something. And sometimes it's as simple as taking 100 feet of piping out, because really if you take a right hand and a left hand, in 20 feet you can meet that piping, and there's already a savings right there. So working hard at it.
Thank you. Before I go to
great information. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks. And if the commission should be interested, there's still a project on the back burner, and that may be of interest to Trustee Yao as well, around the potential producing through thermal means electricity for Vanier.
Thank you.
So that's been on the back burner for probably since before COVID anyways. And I remember Mike Sparsky coming to present on it. If the commission is interested, perhaps as the clouds of COVID lift, we can look at that later on. Dr. Amir.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks, Jennifer, for the presentation. And I really congratulate staff for being on the ball and being able to take advantage of this grant funding stream that's come up. So my first question is just, I see it's a total of $80 million. And I'm wondering if the 3 million, I mean, it sounds like a lot, and whether staff think, will it be presented as an all or nothing, or do you think ministry might look at it and either pay for it all if there aren't many communities who are asking for this funding, but I have a feeling there'll be a lot? Or do you think it could be approved, like certain sections of it? How, I don't know how the grant application goes, but is there a possibility that only parts of this application might be funded?
Through the chair, staff are just currently reviewing the application process. So I'd like to be able to provide a response at the end of the meeting, if I could.
Sure. And then just my second question was around process of if we are awarded the dollars. It sounds like some of this might require the facility to shut for a while. Would the sports center then be brought online to allow the community to continue swimming and using facilities? Have you thought that far in advance?
Through the chair, so I'm going to flip you here. So the sports center will receive the work if we would be successful for the grant application. It's going to really depend on how far we go with the grant application, how big the work is. One of the things is staff still need to cinch down the actual project scope and the cost behind it. In the event that it were to take the sports center facility a lengthy amount of time to complete things, we would certainly look to hit the low revenue timeframe, which is into the summer and heading into the fall. And then we would certainly look to see if there's a need there to open the aquatic center if required. We have to sort of think about as we head into the spring and the summer and the fall with the outdoor programming that's going to be moving forward throughout our entire community. We sort of need to be a little bit fiscally responsible on the decision of keeping a pool facility open if we have the opportunity to go forwards with the grant application. But it's certainly in our minds.
Okay, thank you.
Director Morey.
Great, thank you, Chair. Yeah, another thought that came to mind with this, aside from the benefits of obviously keeping our facilities well maintained and for the normal uses, of course, we've learned with COVID that we may need large spaces perhaps in these kind of situations or even emergency situations. And I know that many of the schools are factored into our emergency services, and I know that our public buildings are as well. So I think it's been a reminder that, keeping these buildings, obviously with nice new roofs and other maintenance repairs is really important in times of a pandemic or other emergencies that may arise. So I think it's prudent that we continue with this, not just for the traditional uses of the building, but for others as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Maybe one quick one I had was whether we're going to ask for letters of support from the municipalities and School District 71 on an application like this, or?
Through the chair, certainly if that's one of the expectations of the application, we certainly will. In the meantime, though, we do keep up the communication with the other municipalities and make sure you do have that support, that we're in their thoughts.
Thank you very much. So there being no further questions on receipt, anybody opposed? There being none, that's moved on receipt. And
move the recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Hillian. In a second.
Second.
Dr. Kettler, I think I got. Thank you. And the recommendation that the Comox Valley Recreation Commission support an application to the COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream for improvements to the Comox Valley Sports Center with a subsequent report to be considered by the board on January 26th. Anybody opposed to the recommendation? Dr. Hamir, are you trying to raise your hand or?
Yeah, not an opposition, just a clarification that on the 26th, is that when we would know at what level we're going to be? Like we haven't put a dollar figure in the recommendation and to what level?
Thank you. Over to staff.
Sorry, Jennifer. Yes, we'll present to you a recommendation that will be the detail required of the grant application. And we'll show exactly the specific purposes for which the grant is applied to and the costs associated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll just give it a second. Seconds gone by. I'll call the vote. Anybody opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. There being no new business, addendums, or media, or in camera, I will consider a motion to terminate. Thank you, Dr. Grant. Thank you, Dr. Kettler, and see you at the board meeting. Thank you, staff.
Thanks, Chair.